So we got that set up. And then we can see this. All right. So we're going to kind of introduce ourselves, we're going to let you guys get to know us a little bit. And then I'm going to let you get to know me. Mr. Jones is going to introduce himself. Yeah. That didn't sound right for some reason. So Mr. Jones is going to introduce himself, and then we're going to kind of go on, tell you a little bit about how class works, show you a little bit about the Google Classroom, and some other things. So first thing is we're going to get into our introductions. So I'm going to move this over here. Like I said, I'm Mr. Farrell. This is Mr. Jones. Miss Stafford is in one of my other classes, so don't worry about that. So if you guys know who Will Ferrell is, it's spelled the same and you say it the same way. So that's the guy who plays Elf, if you didn't know who that was. We're not related, though. A little bit about me. I went to school at Lee, and I went to school to teach biology, so I know science, know how to teach a little bit. I've taught at some different schools. I've mainly taught in Cleveland and here. This is my 5th year at Southeast, and I really enjoy it. So I hope you guys will love Southeast as much as we do. So it's a really good school. Get involved. Enjoy it. So I think you guys really will. Little bit about me. This is my family. So I got to get used to using the mouse. That way they can see. And for some reason, this isn't. There we go. Technical difficulties. You should have told me that, Mr. Jones. So this is my family. You guys online can see now. So this is my dad, and this is my mom. And then these two right here, they're my sisters. So there's 3 kids. I'm the oldest of 3. This is Stephanie. You guys may hear me talk about her from time to time because she lives with me. She just graduated from Lee a year ago with a communications degree. And then Rachel, she's my baby sister. She's obviously not a baby. So she is 21 now. She's getting old. But I don't know. Do you guys have siblings? Yeah? Do you guys have younger siblings? Some people do. So you always think that there's so much, you feel like they're younger than what they are for some reason. I don't know why that is. But she's a full-grown adult now. She's a young lady. This is my dog, Oscar. He lives with my mom and dad. He's 11, so all he knows is living with mom and dad. He actually came up with my mom and dad when they visited me like a week and a half ago. And I didn't realize how bad he has separation anxiety. He gets stressed when he's not around my parents. It's pretty bad. So they stayed at a hotel and they let him just stay with me. And so he was good when everybody was around. And then when they left, he did not like it.
Francisca has separation.
Okay. So that's my dog. And then this guy right here, that's Rachel's husband. So she got married in December. So that's Matthew. So that's the newest addition to our family. And then there's some more pictures. Like I said, Stephanie graduated in August a year ago. And then there's my mom. There's some more pictures of us. Some more about me. I like science, but I like doing sports. I grew up playing sports. I also grew up playing music and doing music. I was in band in school. So, but more than music, I like sports more. I would say it's a close one too. So I watch a lot of different stuff. I watch baseball, basketball, college, professional. So these are some of my teams. I'm a Missouri fan because I'm from Missouri. You guys will see that here in a bit. So at least it's not Alabama, right? Does anybody like sports? Yeah? No? Y'all are so quiet. All right, so more about me. Some of my interests, some of my hobbies. Like I said, I like to play sports. I also really enjoy traveling. I just enjoy exploring and seeing new things, and definitely stuff that I haven't seen before. One of the things I also like to do with traveling is just experience like different cultures and these two right here with the buildings, that's from New Orleans. And it's really cool because there's not a lot of buildings around here that look like that. So they got a lot of iron work and they're really old too. New Orleans is kind of an old town. I don't know how many people have got to see something like that. But some of these buildings are 1800, they're from the 1800s. You can go certain places and find buildings from like the 1700s in Louisiana. So it's really neat to see that.
Jennifer has sisters, and she has an upcoming sister.
Oh, okay. Like an eighth grader?
No, I think upcoming, like, you don't know what it is.
Oh, okay.
Gonna be born.
Oh, congratulations. So these two pictures here, these were taken in Louisiana too. So have you guys heard of the hot sauce Tabasco? Some people have, some people haven't. Well, that's where they make it.
They use Valaria?
Valentina?
Valentina.
Valentina. You got Valentina, you got Tapatio, some of the other ones, yeah. Yeah, Tabasco is, yeah, it's a different one. So it's definitely not my favorite, but it is in Louisiana. So they make it, it's called Avery Island, Louisiana. And so we went and visited the plant, and these two pictures down here, these are pictures from there. So the guy that invented Tabasco, he's actually was like a big into nature. He was like into plants and botany. That's the study of plants, by the way. And he had this big piece of land to where he just had all sorts of plants. It's like a big giant garden. It's more like a park, and it was really cool. So he had native plants. He had a couple exotic plants throughout there, and you could drive and walk throughout there. It's really cool, especially these live oaks. If you guys ever go to the real deep south where it doesn't get cold enough for the leaves to fall off, the trees kind of look like those, and they're big, and the branches just kind of go really sideways. They're not really tall, but they're really wide. So it's really cool to see those things. More about me is this is more what I did this year. So I got to experience my first beach from Louisiana. I've been to beaches in Florida and done those sorts of things before, but this is the first beach that I got to go that was in Louisiana. It's not as good as Florida. It's not as good as some of those other beaches. It's kind of short. The sand was kind of compacted. It wasn't as pretty, but it was kind of cool because I took a screenshot where we were, and this is kind of one I wanted to show you because this right here, I know you guys can't see it because it's not that big. This is New Orleans. And down here, the location, this is where I was at. So it kind of like we were kind of out in the Gulf of Mexico, even though we weren't. We were on an island, but we had to take like bridges to get there because it was very marshy and like there was swamps. And you guys might have heard of this place if you guys paid attention to the hurricanes last week. The place is Grand Isle, Louisiana. I don't know if you guys heard of that place or not, but thought you guys might. This guy right here, this is Mike the Tiger. So that's actually his name, Mike the Tiger. So this is LSU's mascot. So they have a live mascot. And he lives next door to this place. This is the football stadium for LSU. So that was pretty cool. My parents had to show me Mike, and Mike's pretty chill. So it was cool to visit that. Places I've lived. I was born in California, but I spent most of my life in Missouri. I grew up in Missouri, went to high school in Missouri, and then I went to Lee. So I lived in Tennessee a little bit, and I kind of split time between Tennessee and New Mexico because my family moved out to New Mexico when I was in college. So that was another really cool place to experience. A lot of good food. I miss it, but there's a lot of good food in Dalton that reminds me of it. Stuff like tamales, pozole, stuff like that. So it's good to get some of that. It makes me happy. If you want to talk some other stuff that I'm interested in, I like movies, I like shows. I'm really a big nerd when it comes to that sort of stuff. We can talk about things like Star Wars, or we can talk Harry Potter or Stranger Things. Like my sister got me into Stranger Things a couple years ago, and Marvel. I like Marvel movies, so I can talk that with you. Probably my favorite character was Black Panther, so I'm kind of reeling on that one with Chadwick Boseman passing away. If we're talking TV shows, a lot of people like The Office. I'm more of a Friends fan, so I know that's definitely before you guys.
Do you know what Friends show is?
Friends is from like the 90s. You watch it?
Like, people buy the shirts at H&M and places that say Friends, and they have no clue what it's talking about.
Yeah, we had a girl 2 years ago that
Last year.
was it last year?
And she didn't. She said, "My mama bought me this shirt. I have no idea
Yeah.
what it is."
So, well, who knows? Because they do still play it a lot. It's kind of like The Office. Huh?
I think it's on Netflix.
Well, Netflix got rid of that stuff. It's on like HBO Max now or something. Mm-hmm. Yep, but like cable still plays it, so stuff like TBS or other stuff will play it. But it still has a following. So if you haven't watched it, it's a pretty funny show. So that's me. I will let Mr. John talk about himself.
You might want to do that.
You just have to click.
Click. Okay. Hey guys. Hey virtual land. I've been talking with you on text. Welcome. Okay. I'm Mr. Jones. I'm the ESOL lead here, the lead teacher over all the ESOL students. And so we will have kids in class that are learning English, and that's okay. But I'm here, I kind of help everybody. Didn't matter who you are. I was born in Texas, actually, and moved to Dalton when I was 2 years old. So I've been here most of my life working. I went to school here. I went to Pleasant Grove and not New Hope, but North Brookfield. And then I went to Northwest. So I kind of grew up in this system. Southeast is a better school than Northwest by far. That is me as a high school senior. Doesn't this look great? I always thought that was funny. So, I went to Georgia Tech. I got a degree from Georgia Tech and a master's degree from Grand Canyon University, which is out in Arizona. I did that when I first started teaching. I taught school while I was going to get my master's. At the same time, they let me work in my own classroom and do my master's at the same time to get certified to teach. And so I used to own a carpet company here in Dalton. We made carpet for overseas, and we sold it, and I went into teaching. It was a long time ago. Yeah, I'm old. I graduated high school in 1988. I doubt Mr. Farrell was even born yet. I wasn't, no.
Yeah, so I just turned 50 this year. This is the This is the golden birthday, right? Turned 50.
I think so.
This summer during COVID mess, I had a drive-by. I stood in my yard and people drove by, and wished me happy birthday. Couldn't have a big party or anything. So if you want to have a party for me, feel free. I love parties. Where have I taught? I have taught at Christian Heritage here in Dalton. I have taught at a Christian school in Arkansas called Grand Prairie Christian School. I've taught at Dalton Middle School here in town. I have taught in Murray County for 1 year or 2 years at the STEM Academy, and I would never, ever go back to Murray County. Your parents say you got to move to Murray County. Say, no way, I'm not going. It was awful. Then I came to Southeast. I've been here 8 years at Southeast as the lead ESOL teacher and doing science and ESOL. Sometimes I have a class with ESOL kids by myself, but mostly I do this, which is push in. So, this is my wife. You may recognize her if you were in band or chorus at Eastbrook. Anybody in band or chorus at Eastbrook? Any of you guys tell me if you know Miss Jones. Type it in the box. Let me know, and I'll tell her you said hey. Nobody? Do y'all remember her?
Yeah.
Okay, she's at Eastbrook. She's the band director there and the chorus teacher. Funny story. Huh?
Jennifer and Megan said they
A funny story about Miss Jones. She
fell on August 11th at work at school and busted her head open. She had stitches up here and right here, and her nose had to be glued back. She's at home hoping to go back to work in this next week, hopefully. So, but yeah, it's funny. If you want to watch the video, I can show you. Don't tell her I said that.
You're on video though.
It's okay. They're not going to rat me out, are you? So that's me. We've been married for 16 years. I have 2 daughters. Lily, you may know Lily. She's an 8th grader this year at Eastbrook. And then Abigail, you probably don't know her. If you're in band, any of y'all in band, tell me if you're in band.
Jennifer was in band.
Was in band. Okay. Well, she's over the band. She's the band captain, and she's over all the percussion. She plays every instrument known to man. So every drum known to man. There she is. She marches in a drum corps in the summer out of Nashville. So she goes and she plays at one of those big, huge, long marimbas is what she plays. And so, but she's a 12th grader here this year. You'll see her come in here a lot because she likes Mr. Farrell. So she'll come in here and ask me questions. But not on this day because this is Monday. She's Tuesday, Thursday. So that's Lily. Isn't she beautiful? She's at Eastbrook, 8th grader this year. Interesting facts about me. I lived in Germany for 3 years, country of Germany, and I worked with the military, U.S. military teenagers that lived on military bases in Germany that were on U.S. military bases, so on Army bases. And my family is big on piano, as you can tell. Miss Jones plays piano, I play the piano, my daughters play some, they play all kinds of instruments. Went the wrong way. And so we like to sing a lot and play piano. We do a lot at our church. We play music at church. This is my 8th year here at Southeast, but it's my 19th year teaching. So I've been teaching for 19 years. And like I said, my family's all about music. And we love to travel. We've been to Colorado, out west, the mountains, the beach. Our next big trip is going to be taking Abigail, my 12th grader, maybe to Seattle for her senior trip and go up the west coast from California up to Seattle because she is a Grey's Anatomy fanatic. So we thought we might go to Seattle if the COVID kind of calms down there during spring break. We're hoping to go do that. Fly out there. So that's me in a nutshell, and I'm not Miss Stafford.
Yep. No.
See you later. I'll be over here for chatting. Let me know.
Miss Stafford, she is in 7th period with me. Yeah, so that's Miss Stafford. You guys may see her in another class because she also helps in, I think, a math class. So you might have her in another math class. Now, let me take this off. We're going to go through Google Classroom. I'm going to give you guys some pointers, tell you a little bit about it, kind of show you it, how it looks for us, and show you how it looked from a student side to get you guys a little more comfortable with it. So I know some of you guys have already been on it, like our online kids, you guys have been on it a little bit. So if you were kind of confused about something, it might make a little more sense now. Now, I do have to tell you, depending on what I'm using. So like here, I'm clicking on online learning. So for you guys aren't on this one, but for my online kids, you guys are on this one. So this looks exactly like yours. Theirs is gonna 6th period. 6th period is gonna look a little bit different, but that's just because I haven't put their assignments on yet. So if you look here, first thing I want to tell you is this stream button. So the stream side, the way I have it, not all your classes may be the same, but this is how it's going to work for our class. We're going to use the stream side for announcement. So if you can see, I put an announcement. I told the online kids, I said, hey, we're going to be doing our live lesson. So, and that's going to work for anybody and everybody, actually. So we're just starting it with our online, but we're going to upload this video and upload codes next week. So if you guys are familiar, are you guys like 6th period? Are you familiar with Google Meet at all? Some yes, some no. A good way to think about Google Meet, it's kind of like FaceTime, or it's like Zoom to where it's a video conference. So my virtual kids, I can see them. They can unmute their mics. They can talk to us if they have a question.
Are they going to be in the Google? Are they going to be in the classroom with everybody who's doing one particular classroom?
They're in the online kids are on their own.
They have their own.
They have their own thing.
classroom.
Yeah. So it's similar to like a FaceTime type thing or like a Zoom if you use Zoom before. But it has some abilities that are kind of like Instagram Live or like Facebook Live. Are you guys familiar with Instagram Live or Facebook Live? Yeah. So what we're doing is we're recording it, but we're also like we have kids on live. So you guys are able to, so let's say you have a doctor's appointment and you're not able to be in class that day. Well, if I say, hey, we're meeting today at 2:00, you could join on there live and you can be like our virtual kids, or you could go back. We're going to upload the video. It's going to be a YouTube video. You could go back and watch that if you do better with teachers explaining stuff rather than just clicking through a bunch of slides and not getting explanation. So that's just a little explanation on that. So hopefully that makes a little more sense. Now, one more thing on Google Meet on Fridays. There's going to be nobody here on Friday. Well, the teachers are going to be here. No students on Fridays. So if you're in the middle of doing your work and you need some help or you're confused on something, we're also going to have a time on Fridays where you guys can come in on Google Meet. And it's going to act more like a Zoom call or like a FaceTime, like that. So you could ask questions and we can give you guys help if you need help on your work. Okay? So that's kind of a little bit about the Google Meet. So we're going to do announcements on the stream side. Now, if you look at the classwork side, there's a lot more there. You see how much is there? Okay, it's not as much. I promise it's not scary. So we just have some regular class info. And we have stuff like the codes to join Remind. We're going to do Remind for us in a second. I will say as a little side note, since my virtual kids are on, if you joined Remind or you need to join Remind, just make sure that you join the correct code. So I have a code that's just for my virtual kids. So this one here is just for my virtual kids. And then for you guys in person, since you're sixth period, today's Wednesday, if my sixth period here would join Wednesday. Okay, so make sure you join the right one. So that's just a little side note. We also have some other stuff. We have stuff like the syllabus, and you can go read through that. We have my Google site. Let me show you that real quick. That's a good resource for just some extra stuff. So for example, if you're the type of person that needs calendars, you need to like see stuff on the day and kind of see what day am I at, when is it due. This is the online learning kids calendar. So we have a calendar that's specifically for sixth period. There's nothing on there yet because I haven't put assignments on yet. I wanted sixth period to get over and then you guys can work on work. But this is the online kids stuff. So you can see today is September 2nd. Their stuff is due 11:59 on September 9th. So they have a week to work on it. So if this helps you, then that's there for you. That's also there for your parents to look at. We have some other stuff. So if you look at class info here, we have things like the syllabus is here. So your parents, they can't really see stuff on Google Classroom. So if they need to see the syllabus, it's going to be better to take them to the site. Or they could, I guess, look at your classroom if you had it on your phone or something or your computer. We have the Remind codes again. One thing that I asked you guys to get done, I know some of my virtual kids have already taken care of this, is just to have your parents fill out some contact info. That helps me and Mr. Jones get in contact with you, or your parents or guardians to get in contact with us. So, and it does a lot of stuff. You have contact numbers, stuff like Would it be best to contact with email or phone call or messaging? Do we need to do you speak Spanish, and do we need to get a translator? So stuff like that. And that helps us keep in contact with home. I want to show you the school resource one, because let's say you're having issues with tech, because I know some people, they're not as familiar with Google Classroom, and then there's some people that are Google Classroom professionals, like they got it. So if you are struggling, how do I do something? You can click on some of these links, and I'm going to be adding some more here. And this lady is, once it loads, this lady here, she's one of our tech people for Whitfield County. So she's made all these videos helping us, how do you add or turn in stuff? How do you do that? How do you bookmark your classwork tab? How do you do this, all this stuff? And so she's made a bunch of videos for Gmail, for Google Classroom. I think she's going to do some stuff for Google Drive, and kind of help you guys out if you're having issues with technology. So that's our classroom. I'll let you look at the Google side. I'll let you explore that more if you want to. So if you look here, this is the work that you would have, that I'm asking you to have done for this week. So how many things am I asking you to get done? 4, right? So I'm asking you to get 4 things done. And so we'll get into those towards the end of class, but I just kind of want to show you the next time. Can you get that, Mr. Jones? Thank you. The next time, next week, when we come in here, you'll see week 2, and you'll see September something to the September something. So you're going to see that kind of stuff there. All right. And you'll see how many things you have to complete. Let me show you from the student side what that looks like. Okay, that's fine. So from the student side, it looks a little bit different, because I was showing you there's some teacher stuff that you kind of saw there, but you didn't necessarily, you won't see. So this is what it looks like the student side. I haven't really built anything here for the student side, but if we look at the classwork side, I want to show you some things. So do you see how this one has color, but these don't have color? That kind of tells you what you've turned in and what you haven't turned in. So if we look here, there's 2 things I've turned in. There's one more thing I would have to do for this example. Now I'm going to click on, if I click on it, it drops down, which is good. And a lot of people like to just click on the attachment there. But what I would suggest is, I'm actually going to open this one up. I would suggest when you open it up, you click on the view assignment, because that gives you some more things. Like, this is what you'll see. So that, I'm going to unsubmit this real quick. So things you'll see private comments. And I've seen some people like Megan, you've contacted me a little bit, kind of working through some problems. So you can put comments here if you're having issues or you have questions. And here it's a private comment, so only me and Mr. Jones will see it. And then down here, you can post a comment and the rest of the people in the class could see it. I want to talk about these things right here. So add or create, there's not going to be a lot of times for our class you're going to have to upload a document, because most of the time we've already built something and you just have to kind of fill it in or work with it. So there's not going to be too many times, but let's say you have to add a document, you could click on this and add a Google Doc. The big one, this is the really important one, is mark as done or turn in. It may say turn in or mark as done. So what this does, this tells me and Mr. Jones that you've done it. So I can go in and I can look at people's work, but I can't tell that they're done unless you've marked as done or you turn in. It may say one of those 2 things. So doing that makes it huge for me. Like, it makes it so much easier for me and Mr. Jones. We'll realize that you've turned it in. We can get it graded quicker. It won't get kind of lost. I mean, it won't get lost, but we'll know it's turned in as soon as you do. All right. So, and if you don't, let's say you turn it in and you say, I forgot to do something, I need to fix this. you can unsubmit it and still work on it. So it works like that. It works either way. So that's a little bit about that. Any questions about that? All right. Any questions here? Yes? No? No? Okay, Francisca? Okay, Jennifer, Megan. Mr. Jones isn't over at the chat. So no. Megan, you good? Or question? Okay, you're good? Okay. All right. So that's a little bit from the student side. So we're gonna get into our topic for today, kind of our lesson for today. Some of you guys online might have been doing this. So if you've already kind of started the Nearpod, this would be number 2 here. If you've already started number 2, you don't have to do it again. But if you haven't done it, you can join live with us. So it's up to you, or it depends on what you've done or haven't done. So we're gonna get them Chromebooks. So I'm gonna step away here for just a second, and we're gonna get them taken care of, and then we're all gonna come back and do the lesson. So when I call your name, guys, we're gonna give you a Chromebook. All right, so we got Nicole, Harry, Alexandra. We're not doing Alexandra. We're providing what we're doing again. Delora. Okay. I knew it started with a D, but I couldn't remember. Emily, Liz, Jocelyn. So Emily, Liz, Jocelyn. Okay. So, all right, I'm back. So we're going to get rid of this one. We're going to clean this up a little bit. We're going to go to nearpod.com. Okay. So you're going to go to nearpod.com. But if you've already done, my online kids, if you've already done that number 2, so if you've done this one right here, you don't have to go to the nearpod.com. Now, just to kind of explain, I'm going to kind of explain for everybody. So my online kids and my in-person kids, with Nearpod, I don't know how familiar you are, but we can do one of 2 things. We can either do a live session to where I run it and then you guys join with me, or we can do a student paced version. So you can do it by yourself. So if you've done one, you don't have to do the other. If you do the live one with us, you don't have to do the student paced version. Or if you've done the student paced version, you don't have to do the live one. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, online kids? Yeah? Okay. This is my first time explaining it like that. So if you're doing the live session, you see down here where it says enter code under the red box, we're going to enter a code here. So I'm going to have to start this over here.
All right.
You're okay, Mr. Jones.
We were talking about wrestling. I'm one of the wrestling coaches. Any of y'all want to wrestle? Let me know. Girls can wrestle. We have some house wrestlers.
Yeah,
We have a girl that was second in state this year.
Yeah.
You may have seen it in the newspaper. She had a whole big spread in the newspaper during COVID while we were out of school in April. Fantastic lady.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to have any of you.
Okay, so this code right here, you're going to enter into that code box that I told you. So, yes, ma'am. Yeah, we'll sign up for that. So nearpod.com, and then you're going to enter this code if you're doing the live version with us. See that a little bit better there. All right, so thumbs up if you got your code entered. So thumbs up, good, good, good. Okay, online kids, okay. So anybody need to wait? Online kids, does anybody need to wait to put the code in? Okay. Mr. Jones, can you put that in the chat? The code. Oh, sorry. This is for Nearpod, the Nearpod code. Some of them are going to do the live version with us. Let me try. I'm going to try to do this. Nearpod.com. Yep. So I think everyone online has followed us with this. I'm not in your way, am I? That helps her a little bit. Okay. So we're going to start off with a question. And okay, you guys use names, so thank you for doing that. I'm going to hide names just because we're not going to embarrass you. Or we don't want you to get embarrassed while I promise I wouldn't embarrass you on purpose, but we don't want you to feel embarrassed if I like say that that's a good answer or this person needs to add an answer or anything like that. I will say before we start with this, with questions like this, with questions such as this, you're thinking, you're brainstorming, you're giving your best guess. All right. So here's my expectations. This is our first time doing something like this. So this is my expectations for answering questions such as this. There are wrong answers, but here are wrong answers. Okay, I don't want you to stress out when I said there's wrong answers. Here's wrong answers. Leaving it blank, saying I don't know, or not really answering our question. So 3 things you already know about scientific method. Don't go talking about like something that's not about the scientific method. So keep your answer on topic, give us an answer, and you should be okay. So if we ask for 3 things, do your best to put 3 things. There's something else I'm forgetting, Mr. Jones. What am I forgetting? Oh, yeah. So if we're looking here, you can see other people's answers.
Yes.
But we don't mind if you use other people's answers to kind of give you clues. But there's a difference between using it to kind of help give you a hint and using it to just copy. Because people that copy, they don't ever add anything to theirs. I just see the same thing over and over and over again. But maybe you see someone put something up here, you see someone put an answer here, and you're like, oh, yeah, I remember now. So use that for, oh, yeah, I remember, not just putting the same thing. Does that make sense? All right, so we're going to give you some time to do this. So what are 3 things you already know? So even if you think that it's wrong, give it your best guess. Because I just want you to participate on this one. So we're going to say a minute and 45 seconds. So when you answer your question, you can hit submit, and I believe you can hit unsubmit if you have to edit it. So we'll give you some time to think. We'll give you some time to type, because I know some people are speedy typers and some are not the fastest typers. Okay. Ooh, we got some good answers, Mr. Jones. So if looking up here kind of gives you an idea or kind of, jumpstarts your brain, use it, but use it to give a better answer, not just the same answer. So you got about a minute more. Okay. Some of them are, yeah. Some of them they've done the student-paced version. And so I told them, you have to do one or the other, the live or the student-paced version. So I think Megan might have done the student-paced version, I think. So I don't remember. I feel like somebody did that's on here. All right, so our time is up. So kind of finish your idea. If you're still typing, kind of finish your idea. So we have two people that are kind of finishing their idea. So, okay, background, construct a hypothesis, ask a question. That's a good one. Observations, testing, measurements. I like those. Okay, question, make a hypothesis, experiment. Good. Okay, you guys are remembering a lot. Okay, so observation, questions, form a hypothesis. Do background research, good. Report your results, that's something new. There's that, okay, so they said some of the same things. Hypothesis, doing an experiment, collecting data. I don't remember if we had collecting data. I feel like that one's new. Okay, good, you guys remembered a lot. So we're going to talk some scientific method today. We're going to do some practice next week with an example. Talk a little bit more about things like control groups, independent variables, dependent variables. We'll talk some graphs, some things like that. So there are 7 steps. We're going to go with 7 steps. These are our 7 steps for the scientific method. All right, and here's a little visual here. So these have all 7 steps here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I think this is 5, 6, 7, something like that. So if you look, there's not just one way to do this, right? Because I could go down this path here. I could do that path and go straight from beginning to end. Or maybe I ask my question, come up with a hypothesis, test my experiment, and then I realize that my procedure isn't working very well. I have some sort of step that's causing me issues. Kind of like if you guys ever cook, maybe you miss a step or you add too much of something and it doesn't work out. Yeah, you left sugar out. My aunt did that one time on a pumpkin pie. Well, the funny thing was my uncle was a diabetic and he thought it was just for him. So he didn't say anything until other people were trying it. And then we realized what happened. That was kind of funny. But yeah, maybe you realize something went wrong and you have to go back and kind of tweak your experiment a little bit. Or maybe you get to your results and you realize, well, this doesn't really support my conclusion, or my hypothesis. Sorry, this doesn't support my hypothesis. And so I have to kind of go back and change my hypothesis up a little bit. So there's not just one way to do the experiment. Sometimes scientists do it and everything works out right and you do it perfect the first time and, you know, it supports their result, it supports their hypothesis, and they communicate the results. They'll still do it a couple times to make sure that their procedure worked correctly, make sure it wasn't like an accident. But then there's sometimes we do something and we think we got it, and then we come back and realize, no, we don't quite have it right. Kind of like with all this COVID stuff. It feels like we're hearing something different all the time. Well, that's because we're learning more. They do an experiment and maybe the procedure didn't work, so they had to go back and do a new one. They had to do a new experiment. Or maybe that didn't really support their hypothesis and they had to go back and construct a new hypothesis. Okay? So it's not necessarily that science isn't working. It's just that they're refining and they're making their experiment better and they're learning more.
Elizabeth, some more? Yes.
Okay.
Okay. You know where the media center is?
You got it? Okay. All right. So our first step is with a problem or question. So we're going to develop a question or try to solve a problem that can be solved through experimentation. Now, it's important that we solve it through experimentation. So, for example, we have to be able to test our problem or our question. So I can have a question on like, why is the sky blue, but I can't really test why is it blue. I could test, does this vaccine work for COVID? Is this a good vaccine for COVID? Or what batteries work the longest? What batteries give me the most power? I can test things like that. So we got to make sure it's something testable. We're going to make observations. We're going to do some research, learn a little bit more about it. So if I'm staying with that COVID example, scientists might make observations about the virus. They might look at it under a microscope and see, what does it look like? That way they can learn about it a little more. How does it attack the body? They may research, how does it infect the body? Where does it work? So they're going to do research before they even make their hypothesis. And then we got our hypothesis. So with our hypothesis, a lot of times we say it's an educated guess, right? That's because we did our research. We did observations. Because I can throw out a guess for anything. How many stars do I think are in the universe? I don't know. I can make a guess, but I can make a closer guess if I do research. Does that make sense? So we want to make as close of a guess as possible. So let's kind of do a little bit of recap, okay? So does the scientific method have an endpoint? So, or another way of saying this is, do you do it the same way every time? Okay, we can kind of word it that way. So you can draw if you would like to. If you don't have a device that's touchscreen and you can't draw, you could type it out. So I want to kind of see what you think. So we're going to give you a minute and a half here to answer this. So try to explain the best. If you want to kind of draw kind of an image or a picture to help you explain this, do we have to do it the same way? Does it have an endpoint? Everybody doing okay with their stuff? All right, we got about 5 more seconds here. All right, so we have some people saying we don't have to do it the same every time. So if we look, no, we can do it different. I don't know if it has to be different every time, but we can do it different. Every time you test something, you have different ways to get it, okay? No, you don't, we can't, okay. Doesn't always end up the same way, okay? So we don't always have to do this. It doesn't always happen beginning to end. Sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes it doesn't, all right? And that's why it's important that we do an experiment multiple times. Okay, you guys are starting to realize, you see the importance of doing an experiment multiple times, not just doing it once. Okay, we call those trials. So if we do it multiple times and it ends up the same way, we can feel confident that it is it's working and it's doing what it should do. So we can do that. Okay, so we're gonna move on here. So once we come up with our hypothesis, we're going to do our experiment. So I like to think of an experiment like cooking, following a recipe. All right. Do I have anybody that likes to cook, follow recipes, things like that? Yeah. Okay. Some people. All right. So if you're following a recipe, you got the steps that tell you what to do. Heat the oven at 400. You're going to mix these ingredients. You're going to cook it for this long. It tells you what to do step by step, right? But also it tells you the list, the things you need, or the materials. Do you need eggs? Do you need milk? Do you need salt, pepper, that sort of stuff? So the experiment's the same kind of way. It's a recipe for the scientific method, basically. So it tells you the stuff you need. It tells you the steps to do and how to do it. So, and just like an experiment, if it's detailed and it tells us everything we need to do, it's easier to follow. Because sometimes you follow an experiment or you follow a recipe and it's not really specific. It just tells you to do stuff and you're like, well, do I mix these ingredients together? Do I have to do this? Sometimes you run into those kinds of recipes. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say. We have to be able to measure whatever our experiment is. We have to be able to measure it. So like I was telling you that earlier, when we said we have to come up with a question that's testable, we have to be able to measure it. So for example, since I'm on food, I'm going to stay on food, talk about recipes. I can't say, whose chocolate chip cookies are the best. How can I measure whose is the best? That's kind of hard. I might say whose has the most chocolate chips. I can measure that. So we have to be able to, it has to be measurable. When we come up with an experiment, we got to think, what are we going to measure? How are we going to do this? We're going to collect and analyze results after we do our experiment. So do you guys know what this word analyze means? Kind of like go over it. Yeah, so we're going to get our numbers. We're going to get our measurements. And when we're going to go over it, and then we're going to do one more thing. We're going to say what those numbers mean, or we're going to say what that data means. So it's kind of like if I just tell you a temperature. If I just say, we're going to say 78 degrees, okay? That's a number, that's a measurement, but that isn't like, I don't know if that's cold or hot. It depends. If we're talking 78 degrees in the summer, that's like in the mornings. That feels cool. That feels nice, right? But if we're talking 78 degrees and it's winter, that's hot. So we got to say what those numbers mean. We got to give extra. We got to say, hey, this is what our data is telling us. So, and then like we talked about earlier, we're going to confirm by retesting. Like we said, we want to make sure the experiment happens the same way, that the procedures work, that it confirms our hypothesis, and we're going to do multiple trials. That's what we said when we do it multiple times. We're going to do multiple trials. So scientists always include some sort of graph, table, photographs for their data. That's how they usually collect their data. All right, we're going to come up with a conclusion. So we're going to say whether our experiment confirms our hypothesis. We're going to say whether it rejects our hypothesis. And then we're going to take it a step further. We're going to make future recommendations because scientists work together. That's how we get a lot of good stuff. Like we have scientists working on stuff about COVID right now, whether it's a vaccine, what masks work the best, stuff like that. And we want those results really quick because that's helpful for everybody, right? So if scientists work together, they can get that figured out quicker. So one of the ways they work together is they make recommendations. They said, hey, I did it this way. but I kind of ran into a problem here. So they make recommendations and they say, you might want to change this. You might want to make this improvement. And the way that they do that is they do that when they communicate their results. So they'll write a lab report. They'll write and these lab reports, they can present them in person. They can present them over, they can present them to people. They can put it on the web or in a magazine. There's all sorts of ways that they do this. And they're going to expect questions from the audience. They're going to expect stuff like that. We call that peer review. You guys are familiar with peer review from English when you have other people read your papers and make sure you didn't make any grammar mistakes, right? Same kind of thing. And it's not to say you did a terrible job. It's just like in English to say, hey, you can make this better, and this is how we would improve this and get a better experiment and a stronger experiment. Okay? So we're going to skip this last question. Okay? So we're going to skip this last question here. So that's kind of our presentation. Next week we're going to do let me do this. Okay, so I'm going to get my report. I think this may kick you guys out let me not do this real quick. So if on yours, you guys we're going to do this. Somewhere over here, okay, in the top right corner, you should have like a pen and paper thing. Do you guys see that? And I think, Megan, this was where we were running into the problems, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. It might be that you're not signed into Google because this integrates with Google. But if not, no big problem. It's okay. So you're going to see that, and you're going to click on that, and then you're going to have an option that says Save to Drive. Okay, so we're gonna get if you're having issues online, it's no big deal. We'll work on it next week. We're just gonna get this set up for our in-person people. That way we can start building a notebook, because we're gonna kind of use Google Drive, a Google Drive folder to make a virtual notebook. Because normally we do notes in person and stuff like that. So we're gonna work on making kind of a Google Drive folder as our environmental science notebook, if that makes sense. So I think for the virtual kids, you might need to sign into your Google, your Gmail. That way Google recognizes that you're trying to save it to your school drive, your school Google Drive. That might help. All right. So have you guys clicked the Save to Drive? Okay. And we will work on building a folder for your environmental science, so you don't have to put it in a specific folder. I think it says, do you want to put it in a specific folder? You can say no right now. We can go back and we can organize that how we want to. All right. And then it should give you the ability, after you do that, you should have the ability to do some notes on the side. So we will use that ability in weeks ahead. So when we do another Nearpod, instead of saving that to the end and doing that at the end, we can do that on the beginning. That way you can add notes if you're the type of person that likes to add notes. Maybe I say something that's really, really great, and you're like, man, Mr. Farrell nailed today's lesson. I got to mark it down. Maybe you can put that in there. Okay. So you guys got it saved to your drive. Okay. We got one person out. I'm going to make sure we get it saved to their drive. If she hasn't logged her, she might have logged her. Oh, no, she didn't. Saved drive. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're going to walk through these assignments that I put on Google Classroom. So we're kind of running out of time. So we're going to kind of do that to make sure the online kids have some time to look at that and it makes sense. So I'm going to end the session here. Online kids, are you okay for me to end the session? Give me a thumbs up if you're okay. Thank you. All right, so in session, okay, it's gonna kick you out, but that's okay because we're done. I'm gonna close this, and then we're gonna come back to this. All right, so first thing, if number one, the student questionnaire. So what you're going to do is, I talked about at the beginning of class, we're gonna, in-person kids, we're gonna join Google Classroom here in a second. I haven't forgot about that, but I'm just going through this that way the online kids will have time. So one of the things that I talked about is the better that we know you as teachers, we can explain stuff better and we can make it make sense to you. So one of the ways that, and it's really hard to do that, is with this year because you only see us once a week, not 5 times a week like we normally do. So it's going to be a challenge to get to know one another. But I feel like if we do this, we can make that a little bit easier. So you're going to fill out this info, and this is just, some of it's serious stuff and some of it's just silly. So like, you know, if you could have a superpower, that's just, I just want to see kind of like what's your personality like. Do you do anything after school? Okay. So that way we kind of get to know what are your interests, what do you like to do, what do you not like to do, you know, what do you expect to earn in class? But then there's some really important ones. There's some good ones down here. Where's it at? So what's the most important thing we need to do? So what do we need to do as teachers? You know, maybe, you know, you're a visual person. We need to do visual stuff, or, you know, that's where that would go down there. So that's that. I think you guys know yourself, so I think you guys will do well on this. The second thing, the Nearpod, well, we just did the Nearpod. So you guys have completed that. You've done that. Okay. Next thing is, I notice I wonder graph. So what this is, we're going to be doing this is the first time we've done this, so I'm going to kind of walk you through this. So we have 4 different pictures or graphs here. And what you're going to do is you're going to write down as many things the first thing is you're going to write down as many things as you notice. So if I'm looking at this graph right here, you might say, I noticed that they're using years down here at the bottom. That's something that you notice. You might say, I noticed that they have different colors for these lines. That seems really simple, but we have so many kids that overlook that, don't we, Mr. Jones? Like that's an important thing there, that they're using different colors for different lines. Put that down. Even if you feel like it's super obvious, it's super simple, we want that also. If you find something really great, you might say, I noticed that all the lines are going up. Mention that. But no matter how simple or you know, how simple, or I don't know what word I'm looking for, maybe deep that you think it is, put it. So you'll put as many things as you can for the things that you notice. All right. The next thing is you're going to put things that I wonder. So I wonder is basically a way to, it's a question. So you might say, I have a question about yard trimmings. I wonder what they mean by yard trimmings. Is that grass? Is that grass and leaves? Is that grass, leaves, branches? Like what are yard trimmings? So that might be a question that we could put down. You might say, I wonder what these numbers on the y-axis are showing.
I have a couple of afternoon announcements.
Sorry, online kids.
Don't forget that when you are dismissed in just a minute, if you'd like to pick up food for the next day, to pick up breakfast and lunch on your way out, you can do that in the cafeteria. Also, just a reminder that the vending machines are usable. If you'd like to use a vending machine in the hall or in the cafeteria, please feel free to do that. Some of you guys that are face-to-face received Chromebooks today, if you're in cohort 1. If you did that, please make sure you keep hold of those and take care of those and use those on days that you are not here. If at some point you decide I hope everyone has a great afternoon, and we'll see you guys again next Wednesday.
Okay. I promise we'll get done before 3:20. Okay. I don't have that much longer. I'm paying attention to the time. Thank you guys. That was just giving me online kids. That was just giving me a tool just in case we get announcements. So everybody feel good. Everybody feel good with this. Yeah. All right. So last thing with number 4, you're going to watch a video on lab safety. And then after you watch this video, you're going to read this little situation here. It's about SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs. It's SpongeBob theme. You're going to highlight any broken lab safety rules. So do you guys know how to highlight on a doc? It's up here, highlight. Okay, so to highlight, and I'd hit the color. All right, so you're going to do that, okay? Now, we're going to get my online kids. I'm going to get the in-person kids the code for Google Classroom. So you guys do not need to join the Google Classroom that I'm getting ready to pull up. So you were checking, Mr. Jones, if they had any questions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so no questions? Oh, all right. So we will see you guys on Friday if you have any questions, or we will see you next week then, okay?
They joined the Google Classroom already?
The online kids they have, yes. So the in-person kids need to join. So if you guys don't have any questions, we will either see you Friday or next week, okay? So I ask that you guys hang up. Okay, bye. We'll see you later.